Joining us now to break down not only the release of the Mueller report, but other big news of the day, co-host of Pod Save America and host of Pod Save the World, Tommy Vietor. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, good to see you.
Great to have you here. We had scheduled you to come on, not knowing that today would kind of be a big news day. So kind of a good get for us. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I mean, it's been one of those mornings where your jaw just, you're picking it up off the desk all day long.
Yeah, for a number of different reasons. So let's start to break down some of what happened today, starting with William Barr's press conference. During it, he said a lot of things that I take issue with, but he said specifically that the White House fully cooperated with the investigation. Now, I know you haven't had tons of time to read the entirety of the Mueller report and everything, but based on what we have learned, what do you think about that spin on Trump and the White House's behavior?
I mean, it's such a blatant lie that it's almost remarkable that he said it. First of all, Trump didn't sit for an interview about the underlying questions regarding collusion or a conspiracy with the Russians. He answered those via writing, but then he refused to answer written questions about the obstruction allegations. So he didn't cooperate with 50% of the inquiry. I don't know how Barr thought he could get away with saying that.
I guess he thought he could get away with it because he knows that the media tend to just eat up whatever he says and present it as fact. Many people aren't interested in whether Trump obstructed justice, and so they're willing to go along with whatever he said. And look, he's being attacked, but I don't know that there will be any consequences. I don't think he's going to be forced out based on him mischaracterizing the report, unfortunately. And yeah, him not sitting to testify is, to me, it's one of those times that you wonder if you're taking crazy pills. That people can see that and think that Trump was being honest and forthcoming in this investigation. What else about Barr's press conference this morning stood out to you?
I mean, it is. We should step back and realize how remarkable it is that the Attorney General is out there spinning for the President of the United States, talking about his state of mind, making excuses for him. That is such a departure from what the Attorney General's role is supposed to be. Like when I was at the White House, I mean, we would never find out what was being deliberated at DOJ. For example, Assange was just indicted. I learned about all those deliberations in the newspaper years later when Eric Holder started talking about it. Like, that's how it's supposed to be in a post-Watergate world. And yet you have Barr out there spinning and doing Trump's bidding. I mean, it is, the fix was in when this guy applied for the job with a 19-page memo that said Trump couldn't commit obstruction of justice. And here we are. It's utterly predictable.
Yeah, there could not be a more obvious through line from his memo last year to how he's interpreting what is in the Mueller report on obstruction. And to that, let's turn to obstruction, because he specifically said that Trump had, in all these different things where some people might interpret it as obstruction of justice, he had non-corrupt motives. That, in fact, the only reason he did these things was because he was so frustrated with the investigation. And so, even if he did things that in other contexts might count as obstruction of justice, it doesn't count in this case because he's just emotionally unstable. What do you think about that precedent being applied to future presidents?
Or past presidents? I mean, yeah. I guess Bill Clinton was just, kind of horny, and that's why he ended up doing what he did in the Oval Office. Is that an acceptable answer for all the people who led an impeachment proceeding against him? I don't think so. It's not an acceptable answer to me, and I'm a Democrat. So, I think it is an astounding interpretation of the president being above the law. I mean, this country was founded on the belief that no one is above the law, and have the Attorney General out there spinning for him is just astounding. I mean, it's a side point, but Barr has spent more time briefing the press from the podium than Sarah Sanders or the Department of Defense press secretary has in like the past several months. So, it tells you a lot about what this administration thinks about transparency.
That's true, and only because you mentioned Sarah Sanders, I just want to briefly touch on, it was revealed that she admitted to the Mueller investigation that she lied about James Comey and how unpopular he was in the FBI. I'm assuming this means that she's going to lose her job because she doesn't have credibility anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the White House press corps doesn't walk into that briefing room with a set up plan where every single reporter is going to ask her about that quote until she admits it or ends the briefing, they don't deserve to have jobs. Yeah. Like, at some point, those individuals in that room, it's a waste of time. I don't know why they're sitting there. I understand it's part of the job. It is what it is, I guess. But they need to hold her accountability for lying to their face. It's now on the record, admitted in legal proceedings. They need to use this.
Yeah. So the difficult thing about news days like this is, the report drops just a little bit before we're going to go live. I started scanning through it after personally OCRing it because the Justice Department didn't make it text searchable, which seems like a ridiculous oversight. And I began plucking out things that were of interest to me. But obviously, there are many things to be discussed. When you were initially, you're looking at it yourself, you're seeing what's being reported on social media and all of that. What are some of the things that stood out to you that you want to make sure that people don't miss in the flood of talk that'll come out of this release?
Sure, and forgive me for looking away and look at my notes here.
Oh, totally.
A key point is Mueller failed at obstruction. I'm sorry, Trump failed at obstruction of justice because his staff wouldn't do what he said.
Yeah.
That to me is a remarkable key point. He's calling Corey Lewandowski, his former campaign manager, and he's trying to get him to call Sessions and slow the investigation down. He's calling Jeff Sessions at home and saying, unrecuse yourself. Those are blockbuster facts. If those are the kinds of things that were revealed in, say, Watergate or in anything that the previous or any previous president had done something like that, it would be seen as an impeachable offense. So, like, the effort to obstruct justice was so blatant. The other thing that is astounding is that the Trump campaign had a 25-page proposal to try to get hacked Clinton emails, possibly from Chinese, Russian, and Iranian intelligence services. So there was this effort directed by General Flynn to try to get Hillary Clinton's deleted emails. What I'm trying to understand is if you're to indict Julian Assange for almost exactly that this week, how is General Flynn or the Trump campaign not seeking some legal the problems for undertaking that kind of effort? That is another astounding thing that jumped out at me.
Yeah, and actually related to the talk about conspiracy and all of that, there was a little section that said that it required the standard they were going to apply required a sort of formal agreement that you can't simply have behaviors on both sides that do benefit the other that fit the pattern of conspiracy. You need to have a formalized agreement, which, if that was the bar, it sounds like that was always going to be very difficult to prove.
What criminal is going to put their criminal conspiracy in writing? That is the dumbest threshold I've ever heard of for a criminal matter. I mean, and we also now know that Trump not only knew in advance about the WikiLeaks disclosures, they had a press plan that they were putting in place to maximize the impact. So that was something we debated for a long time. I mean, when you think back at how far this discussion has shifted, during the very end of the campaign and the months after, people who were trying to assert that there was a Russian conspiracy to disrupt our election were treated like they were crazy, like they were wearing tinfoil hats. That is like the second paragraph in the report, that there was a wide-ranging and systematic effort to disrupt our election by the Russian intelligence service.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you point out, what criminal would be dumb enough to put this all in writing. We kind of have an example of something like that with the emails back and forth with Don Jr. before the Trump Tower meeting. As we pointed out in the last block, thankfully, from the point of view of the special counsel, it was so obvious that Trump Jr. is unaware of what is legal, what is illegal, that it would be difficult to prove that he acted with intent to break the law. But it was all there in the emails why he was going to attend that meeting.
Find me one kid on the street that gets to use the excuse, I didn't know that what I was doing was against the law, and then gets away with it. It is astounding. Okay, if your assertion is that campaign finance law is too complicated and arcane for the average person to understand, then why would any campaign ever seek to understand it or hire a lawyer? You have a get out of jail free card. It's amazing. And like Don Jr. was seemingly even worried about the degree to which his father directed the White House to lie about the reasons behind his meeting. Yeah. If you're upsetting Don Jr.'s sensibility and morality, you crossed some lines here.
That is certainly true. And while we're talking about obstruction of justice, the second thing that makes me think that I'm taking crazy pills is, we've all just accepted he fired Comey to stop the Russia investigation. And that's totally cool. You get one for free. It's on the House. You can fire one person. It was revealed that he ordered Don McGahn to fire Mueller and then told McGahn, okay, you refused to do it. Now I want you to lie about me asking you to do it. And that, too, even to Mueller, the guy he wanted to fire, does not necessarily rise to the level of obstruction of justice. Isn't that crazy?
I don't get it. I'm so frustrated by this. He told Don McGahn to fire Mueller to shut down the investigation, and then he tried to get him to lie about it, and McGahn wouldn't do it. And McGahn is all over this report talking about how absurd it was. I mean, the one of the key takeaways is again that Trump was attempting to obstruct justice every which way he could, and his team foiled him by not listening to him. I don't understand how that gets Trump off.
Yeah. I guess the bar is set so low by William Barr that he might just slide by. So Tommy, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully in the future we can talk about some other matters other than just this. But it is the big news of the day, and we appreciate you coming on to break it down.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun to vent.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.